set up to cover you wherever you wander in the front here.
All right, check, check, check. Cool. I don't stand still very well. You guys all know that about me. I'm a busybody. Ken, board, thanks for the invite and the opportunity. As always, I look forward to serving you all and providing information and helping solve problems and contributing to the cause any way I can. So Mike Webb, those that don't know me, I'm the public safety specialist for PG&E. I would say it's not really a safety role in the traditional sense of construction safety. It's a public safety role. And if you had to identify my job, I'm a public safety liaison. Basically, my role is to go between the utility company and the fire, law, and OES, the emergency response communities within the areas I'm responsible for, which is El Dorado and Sacramento County. So that's a very interesting job. It's a new role in PG&E about, well, I guess the public safety specialist kind of evolved in about 2011 and has really turned into an all risk, all things fire, law, EMS, all group. So the company has definitely learned a lot from our little team of 25 retired fire chiefs, CHP commanders, military folks. We have a very diverse group, and they are always very interested to hear what we have to say. I would say that's important to me because my whole purpose of going to work for the utility company was kind of twofold. One, I still had a passion for firefighter and public safety, and then two, I just want, utilities are everywhere. They're a critical part of our society, our economy, and our lives. And they got to be safe, right? And so that's kind of why, Mike, why would you do that? Why would you carry the water? Why would you make that jump? But those are kind of the reasons why. And I can tell you, I see things, a lot of positive changes, and we'll talk about that in the presentation. We'll kind of go over what that strategy is, what we commit to the CPUC, and what we commit to the communities and making things safe, right? So now for a little background, you kind of haven't seen me for a little while, so everybody knows as things evolve and changes occur, leadership changes, directives changes. So PG&E really wanted to develop a position and people to come and work with Fire Safe Council specifically. And the thought mindset was right, wrong, or whatever. Couldn't make the case, but Fire Safe Councils weren't really necessarily a part of the public safety community, and therefore it's my line of business. And so I was kind of asked to step back and let some other folks get involved. And they quickly realized, as Ken and anybody sitting at this table knows, take 48 counties that PG&E is responsible for and all the fire safe councils in that area and assign it to one person. Sashi got really overwhelmed really quick. And they realized, hey, you know what? Those public safety specialists, maybe they can really help us be a part of this. So here we are. We're engaged, Sashi and our partners, established with another finger, which is our wildfire strategy group, was a guy named Kevin Johnson. So Kevin Johnson and I, we are in the same work group. Sashi is a corporate affairs. And so that means she is a director and she has ability to communicate at the director level and hopefully be able to start to pivot our work plans and our initiatives to fold in to local efforts. And that's kind of the objective. That's the theme, is that she can go director to director and maybe start moving those vegetation management projects around to align with fire safe and community projects and those sorts of things. So we'll see. She's got a head of steam. She's very bright. She's engaged, and she's connected at a lot of levels in the state of California. So Sashi will be around as well. So with that being said, so let's talk about, PG&E, over the years, we've developed a lot of initiatives. We absolutely had to get our act together. We have to make things safe. Catastrophic fire shall stop. That is the value of our leader, Patty Poppy. That is the directive. It is what drives our decision making in PG&E. Safety. Everyone shall be safe, and catastrophic wildfire shall stop. So that is driving our decision. Every decision is measured upon meeting those objectives. So all the stuff that we've invested in over the years. So they're kind of bundled up into three areas. So there's the situational awareness, which is information and technology, right? Operations, what are we doing operationally, and what does the resiliency look like? So resiliency, that's kind of where we all come together here. So situational awareness, tools and technology. So that is what drives decision making, right? So we need the data, we need to understand risk, we need to detect, we need to communicate, right? So that's where those big investments in technology, some of those things you've seen probably around your community. You've seen all the little weather stations kind of up on the power poles. You definitely are well aware of the Alert California camera program. So PG&E was a huge investor and a huge leader in basically buying those cameras, supporting them getting installed, and handing it all over to the university to. They have the big supercomputer, the ability to manage, operate, and stand that all up. So that's been a super. That's what I tell everybody. Like, you got to have that on your phone if you live up here. You got to understand. And now with AI, the AI tools in that specific product, I mean, those cameras are even alerting us now that, hey, there's a change in the horizon, you might want to look at your camera, you know? So pretty cool to see where that came from. You know, when we were starting with cameras in Tahoe, that Camino, the first one, the Firehawk or whatever they called it then. The first camera generation that we grew up with, to see where it is today is just incredible. And so not only is PG&E a huge contributor to that, but also a leader in supporting that. We are also a big partner with the Watch Duty. We have leadership involved with that group, and we've also made key investments there to keep building that platform out. I don't know how many got on Watch Duty yesterday to watch the fire, but holy cow! But that tells a story. If you're on the ground and want to know what's up, you can turn on chatter off on Facebook and just get on Watch Duty. Turn on your Broadcastify channel and look at the camera and understand firsthand and make the decisions that are right for you. So there's also that technology is also, I would say the things that are interesting to me is the meteorological team. The weather guys are top notch. And we do share our daily weather with our emergency response partners, and we compare notes. We have an entire operational mobilization standard that basically when the weather's this, we do this as a company, and wherever the weather's impacting. It's pretty impressive. I would have always liked to have that Cal Fire when it comes to it's just a hard run standard. We've got this risk, this many people, this many days in this location, and it's very cool how defined that's getting with good weather and good risk projection. But also the other piece to that is identifying risk on the landscape, and we're talking about wildfire risk and what we call the high fire threat districts, and basically identifying the areas where we need to up our game for wildfire safety. And that's where the other two pieces come into play. So I believe El Dorado County, I know El Dorado County has the most acres of what we call high fire threat district, either tier 2 or tier 3 on the CPUC map, which kind of aligns with the Cal Fire map somewhat. So we have the most amount of customers, we have the most line miles, and we have the most acres of high fire threats. So we really are, if you want to call it the highest risk area in the mind of the company. So, and we'll talk about what that means as we chew through these other things. So when we talk about, so in that area, what are our operational mitigations? What are we physically doing with the system to make it safer and make you safer? So the enhanced power line safety settings have been really interesting. Is everybody kind of familiar with that piece? So enhanced power line safety settings are this. So if you've lived in the foothills for a little while, back in the day, you get a big snowstorm, rainstorm, and the power would flicker, okay? And it would go off. And then in 10 seconds, it would come on, and then it would go off. Then it would go on, then it would go off, and then the third time. And if you knew, okay, it's testing, and on the third time, if it doesn't come back on, we're going to be out of power. So the device that does that is called a line recloser. The line recloser's old technology. It senses fault, shuts off the power, and then it would test 3 times to try to turn the power back on, with the mindset being, if it's a snowstorm and a branch hits it and then passes, we could turn the power back on and it's safe. That technology with our wildfire risk had to go. It cannot be in play during fire season, right? We don't want it testing on a branch and putting sparks on the ground. But the other piece to that is you have this group of firefighters kind of show up and say, hey, well, if it can do that, can it do it better? And the engineer's like, well, sure, probably. So they went to work, figured out how to make the line reclosers, this fault detecting device. It's all over the system. That not only could it detect fault, but it could detect fault in about 1/10 of a second and shut the power off entirely, with that fault setting being adjustable. So enhanced power line safety settings is this: as we get into high fire risk, those ground sensing, fault sensing devices become very sensitive. And basically, a squirrel, someone hitting it with their tractor, or a legitimate tree strike type incident shuts power off. So, so what did we learn really quick? I think we started this about, well, I guess it was during the Caldor fire. We actually had some of these outages around the fire. It was super challenging for me about maybe wondering what I was doing. But we've come a long way. So with that being said, we added a bunch of these to make the little segments in between those devices smaller, so the impacts are smaller. And we've gotten really good. So if you may not understand this, and this is where people get frustrated. Yeah, it sucks. Power's out. We didn't start a fire, so it's a win. But how long is it going to be out? So we cannot restore the power unless we physically inspect every piece of wire that's going to be energized during fire season. So it takes, we have to stop every job, take every employee, and we have to go patrol. We have to, so think about that. If you're out in Somerset, Ken knows this well, the Apple Hill circuit that goes from Camino all the way out to River Pines and up the Grizzly Flat is the longest circuit in PG&E service territory. It's 377 miles through the Consumidus River drainages. And so we get aircraft, we get people on the ground, and we go patrol, right? And so it takes time. What we learned, we patrol really good now. And those outages that were 2 or 3, 4 years ago that were taking a day and a half, 6, 8 hours maybe, and even less than 3, 4 hours. So becoming more, the reliability issue sucks, but we're getting better at the patrol, and the outages are smaller, and the patrols are smaller, and then the patrols that we have are quicker. So it's coming together. And I think the technology there, I think there'll be a time and a day soon where even it knows where, because we're putting all this other technology, it will actually know where the fault came from. And basically, there may be a drone that comes out of a box, goes, flies, gets video, it goes back to the box, and the system switches itself back on where you don't even need people on the ground. So that technology is alive. That AI piece is huge. And the system may become self-healing, maybe in our lifetime. So pretty, the good part in all of that is our fire risk and our fire conditions dropped about 97% with the enhanced power line safety settings. So when was the last time we had a public safety power shut off? Not here. But why do you think that is? Because we have real-time protection now, right? So if we did have that, the public safety power shut off, it is the last best decision. It is it's absolutely last resort. Everything else is in play, and the risk is so high that we identify places that we still have high risk. So the enhanced power line safety settings have basically, for the most part, really minimized the public safety power shutoffs we've had. The number of customers impacted and size and scope have been, I would say, significantly smaller than what we experienced in 2020, 2021. So, and they'll continue to shrink, and they'll continue to get smaller. And again, with that technology of this just might become real-time protection as it improves and gets better. So that would be my hope. Public safety power shutoff is difficult, and it's inconvenient, but it is a high-risk situation. It is a last resort. So any questions on that? You guys, by the way, this is for you. If you have questions, please jump in, or we'll do them at the end, whatever the pleasure of the group is. But I'm happy to take questions before we move on. Oh, here. You can do that.
Hi, my name is Hassan. I'm with the Sierra Springs Regional Fire Safety Council. On the way in on the news in my truck, I heard that there's a quite wide-ranging potential for power safety shutoffs in the next couple of days. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I am well aware of that. Sharing that information with our county OES and our fire agencies in real time. There is a public safety power shutoff anticipation of north winds and low humidities and high temperatures, I think tomorrow and Friday. But the areas of impact are coastal mountains and southern Sierras. So no impact here as of yet. So, and again, those numbers and areas are, like I said, from year to year, it keeps getting kind of smaller and smaller. So our ability to use other tools is improving. So yeah, you're right. And you can be signed up and get notifications for that. I hope everybody has their notifications in PG&E. I will put together, like I have before, post meeting, a little, kind of residential guide card with here's the key places to go for wood management, PSDS information, those types of things. So, yes, sir. Yeah,
Which right on top.
it's this little thing. I had to fish for it too.
Thank you for your update on the new technology and measures taking place. You mentioned that the wildfire risk has been reduced by 97%. How is that calculated?
I misspoke. Ignitions from overhead utility lines.
And how is that calculated?
By validation on the ground. If there's an ignition and we're at fault, if it's 3 feet by 3 feet is our standard. So if it's larger than that, then it's ignition, we record that. So yeah. Your system tells us, our troublemen tell us, and obviously the fire engines let us know. So all right, so there's operating. These are how we're operating the system for safety, some resiliency work. So this is an important one for us here. The strengthened lines and hardening. We call it hardening. It's kind of changed, but basically strengthened equipment. So what does that mean? There's 2 different initiatives going on out there. So we have what's called hardened overhead infrastructures, where you see the wrapped poles that have that intermescent wrapping on them that essentially, if those poles are impacted by fire, that wrap seals and insulates and keeps the pole standing. With the interest in the company, first and foremost, you see that along roadways, is to keep the poles from burning through and blocking ingress and egress. That's the primary purpose of those, but it will just protect poles in the wildland area. The problem is the crews can't climb, so they have to be accessible by a service truck. Because if they can't inspect the wood, they're not going to climb the poles. So the intermescently wrapped poles, they're heavier poles, bigger, stronger poles. And there's what you see at the top. It's pretty. This is the stunning part. Is there's the 8-foot composite crossarm, big wide crossarm. You'll see conductor that's not like it used to be. It's not the bare wire conductor anymore. It's a coated. I wouldn't call it an insulated conductor, but it's a coated conductor that basically they call a tree wire or bird wire that prohibits sparks when things come in contact with it. And then the other things you notice are where the conductor attaches to the cross arms, you'll see these little white covers, and those are to keep the squirrels, mice, and birds, which are also a big cause of fires, from getting in there and that's one location where, one, they like to be, and then 2, that's where they get shocked and fall on the ground and start fire. So that's what you'll notice. You'll see these, and that's occurring all over the landscape. Yes, sir.
So yesterday, my newscaster is of choice is KCRA, because they have that helicopter that can come in and show you exactly where things are happening.
Yeah.
So they have the people on the ground, and it seems as if I heard that PG&E, comes to a fire and takes action, mainly related, completely related to your system.
Mm-hmm.
So they showed a wood pole that had been sprayed.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you talk today about how you deal with the fire itself, and you're part of the team, and in terms of response?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, let's go through resiliency.
Okay.
Don't let me forget, because I'm a little
Okay.
ADD, so.
I just wanted to thought it was pretty important.
Yeah, and we'll wrap up with that. That's perfect. So the hardened overhead is, you're seeing that happen there's a whole bunch that's been, I'd say the largest areas, like from Cool, up highway, out into Pilot Hill, and then up 193 corridor, they're up to about Greenwood, taking that work next year out into Slager Mine and back to the backside of Georgetown. There's been a lot of that work done in Kelsey. You're seeing that happen there. Mosquito, it's been a big focus for overhead hardening. And then obviously Pollock Pine, Slide Park, Sierra Springs, and then moving out into South County, there's been a lot of that work. It's interesting. I think undergrounding is great. I think, but it doesn't always work, and so there has to be an option. And I think it's a good option. It's definitely more cost effective. Undergrounding is very expensive, so I like seeing that work. I just like seeing the improvements and things being improved in our county. So that again, that interest and investment here is bigger than any other county. I don't have the numbers because as soon as I print them, they're stale and old. I'll show you where you can go look at the maps yourself when we're done. The undergrounding. So on the Dixie Fire in 2021, our new CEO at the time, Patty Poppy, made a commitment to PG&E customers, ratepayers in our community that she was going to bury 10,000 miles of wire in the highest risk areas in the service area. So is what I can tell you, and I still see it in the queue, and I still see it on track, and the numbers are tracking with the original commitment. But as it stands now, Colorado County will be getting about 1,800 of the 10,000 miles here. So of 48 counties, we're getting almost 20% of the work here. So again, that goes back to my opening statement about the risk here. They see it and they understand it. So undergrounding is it's a little uncomfortable and it's a little inconvenient how those construction crews set up in your neighborhood to dig up your driveway to do all that. Is what I can tell you though, the feedback that I've got is those crews, a lot of people have had really positive experiences with the crews and they're very interested in leaving things better than they found them. So building that relationship when they come on your property is huge. Big undergrounding projects. There's I think right now Kelsey is in construction. The miles are significant, coming all the way up Shoofly out to what's the road out Bain Road, and the road that goes off the not Stewart line, but I can't remember the road. Anyway,
Mount Murphy?
no, all the way out into Traverse Creek, and then out Garden Valley Road at the bottom of the Hackenor. Huge undergrounding project this year and next. Mosquito. The Mosquito on the log cabin side of town, which is the east side. I just scoped and gave a bunch of input on supporting that evacuation loop with undergrounding, and I'm quite confident that will come out on after it goes through the design sausage machine. It should look very similar to that. And then obviously right now in construction, we're on Starks Grade, we're in Sierra Springs and Pleasant Valley, and with new projects in Camino probably going on right now. So we get a lot of questions, concerns about the undergrounding work. I reach out, have pretty good communication flow with the fire agencies. People are concerned about traffic control, especially like on something like Starks Grade Road or something. And our crews are required to maintain the lane of passable traffic, and during emergencies, they are required to open free flow of traffic and get out of the way. They understand that, they're sensitive to that. We haven't had any issues, but we have had a lot of concerned community members. Like I said, I asked Chief Cordero, or I follow up with CAL FIRE, and people are concerned, but understand we are aware. That's part of my job, is that communication that there's an emergency in the area with those lines of business, and making sure that we are not going to be a problem, that we're actually going to be helpful when and if that day comes. So they're out there on the ground. There's a lot of them. So I tell the fire guys, like, hey, you may be used to going down that road code 3 like that every time. There's crews out there on the road now. They move around every day. So just make sure you're aware where they're working, and be prepared for coming upon the traffic control. So undergrounding is a big deal. Lastly, vegetation management. And this is the one that's always, I would tell you, for all this good stuff we do, this is still a really real challenge for us, just because one, we were behind, I would say. I think that's the most honest way to say it, with maintenance. And post some large fires, the regulations changed, and they made them, we needed to go from 4 foot to 12 foot for pruning, annual pruning and things like that. Then we did enhanced, disease dead and deformed trees that could impact the power lines. So we started going out from those easements, and it's, I moved up here, I live up here, the trees are important to me. My neighborhood text group always warns, hey, there's a bad crew in the neighborhood, and everybody, goes out and makes sure, they take care of each other and make sure they're supposed to be on their property, doing the job they're supposed to be doing. But so vegetation management challenging, but I'll share you with this. I had a friend, and I'm on the board of directors with my fire department, and I had one guy say, "Dude, I went and bought this generator. Now the power doesn't go out anymore." Like the last couple of years. So I guess in my mind, it's rough, but you got to value it in your mind. You got to value it some way, somehow, you know. So that's how I value it. It's been painful. It's difficult, even on my own properties. I've lost some beautiful trees. However, the safety is there, the reliability is there, and it's getting better. And we're going to turn that corner where it becomes more of a maintenance thing. In the, other than a sudden bug kill pine tree or something that comes up, an emergency work that comes up. But we're turning the corner on that. I feel that, and I believe in that. So, but vegetation management is a big piece of this process, and so outside of just what we have to do through Public Resource Code and or General Order 95 and CPUC regulations, those really frustrate me because sometimes I feel like they weren't, voted and gone through the Board of Forestry and, law. They're just a regulation. I think we're getting into a good space and understanding that stuff's super important. I'd encourage all of you to go read those things. And I know our website shows diagrams and what each one of those rules and regulations and laws mean to power assets. So it's important to understand that, but it's getting better. And so in vegetation management, like I said, the place that I'm still pushing us to blossom, if you will, is getting out of this response mode, right? We've been in this response mode and now starting to become more proactive and more working on the strategic and planning side and get out of the, hey, now we just got to go mow 1,200 miles of trees this year because that's what the CPUC tells us. Like, we can be better than that. We can be better than a C+ student, right? We can be A+ with our veg. And so we're working on that. So, we attended the meeting yesterday, and we have engagement from high levels of the company now, and hoping to continue to define our roles, responsibilities, and our availability to partner with all of you in that, getting that stuff off the landscape, right? And so convincing the power utility company that you reduce your risk and you reduce your liability by having a safe and resilient landscape, they get it. They understand now. That didn't make sense. They couldn't make a business case up until a few years ago that made sense. So we're there. And so now how do we implement, who do we partner with, and how do we move forward? So I'm kind of excited about that piece. So yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for coming today. Mark Ulmer, Grizzly Flats. Two-part question here. First of all, when they rebuilt our infrastructure in Grizzly, part of it was undergrounded, part was not. The part that was not was definitely to get those of us that survived the fire heated up as soon as possible, and they absolutely kicked butt in getting us power 2 months after the fire was out, basically. The part that they did overhead, some of the poles were wrapped and some were not. Maybe 100 feet away from each other, you have a pole that's not wrapped and one that is wrapped. What's the logic behind that? And then the second part of the question is that now that they've done the undergrounding on part of the community that burned and there were no homes, will they be coming back and undergrounding the overhead that they had put in initially after the fire to basically complete the undergrounding in the community?
All right, so first part of the question is, I mentioned the piece about accessibility with the bucket truck is the primary factor, but real fact is during that emergency, they put poles in that they had to get power back to people. They weren't going to wait for the order of this or that. My superintendent was very clear. These are what I have, and we're putting it. So that was a part of that decision-making process. Now, so our work planning is so right now we're doing work plans for 2026 and 2027. I have not seen Grizzly Flat in any of those work plans, but we're 3 to 4 years into that 10,000, and every year the miles are doubling. And so hold on your hat. We'll see what happens with that. But I couldn't answer that today. I haven't seen it.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So so
Mike, let me know if I'm on the right
I
slide.
don't care, you know, I don't, the slides are just pictures. I really like going through the chart. But we can kind of just see if I missed anything, if you want to chuck through the slides. So, the progress map, so this is important. This is the map on the website where you can go see the undergrounding and the overhead hardening. It actually is I think it updates about a weekly. But it'll actually, you can go click on the icon, it'll show that part and kind of tell you, you know, where we're at in that project. So that's good information and you can see where they're at around your community. The undergrounding plan, yeah, we got all that. The piece of the undergrounding was getting contractors and technology to be able to, you know, there was a day where, you know, you can only underground a mile a day, you know, it was this really staunch thing. And I think between undergrounding technology and boring equipment now, we're doing well north of that. And so production's increasing, technology is increasing, and the finished product is getting better. Supporting PSPS and EPSS, there are programs. Portable battery, if you have a medical issue like CPAP machine or oxygen generator or something like that. The generator and power, these do come and go. I'm not really up to speed with the self-generation. I've had people tell me that they've used that to get like solar panels and battery systems, and that it was very, very positive for them. Disability disaster access, yeah, we always partner with our NGOs and community services groups, especially during a large outage. That's one of my roles, is to help bring those assets into the El Dorado County POC. Residential storage initiatives, backup solutions. But there's one that's not on here that I'm going to tell you about. And you got to be quick on this because it goes away, but it's called the transfer meter program. Has anybody done that here?
I was gonna do it, but the portable generators I have are not on their
approved list. So they will come free of charge and install a new meter on your house. One, you have to have a modern panel. I don't know the exact specifications, what it's called, a modern panel. And that meter has a physical pigtail on it and a plug and a built-in transfer switch. And basically, if you own one of the approved generators, which is a pretty robust list.
It's a big list.
It's a big list of generators, but basically they'll come, you have a safe transfer switch access to a generator for your house, and they do it. But when those come available, the sign up list is long and people are quick. That it's gets funded about once a year and it goes away really quick. But read up on that and get signed up on that, and then if you get selected with the available funds, it's a good tool. And for me, I'll tell you, backfeed is a real thing, especially now that more and more people have temporary generators for their homes. I made a career on the one guy out of 100 that doesn't do things right, and so I'll tell you the potential during that large winter storm or that large outage, and you get in your mind, well, everything's out, I'm fine, I'll go pull the wires off the driveway or whatever. Like, don't get in that, don't be complacent like that anymore. Between generators that are not properly installed, don't have transfer switches, or people, do this, what do they call it, the suicide plug, and plug into the dryer vent, but they don't isolate the main. Whatever that is, those transformers, they work both ways. So a transformer takes high voltage, drops voltage, but increases amperage into your house. It does it the opposite. It will take the generator power and put it back line voltage on the wires as far as it can go. So a lot of times during a storm, it'll be like a brownout. And people say, oh, PG&E, they're browning us out. I'll tell you, most of the times that's one of your neighbors backfeeding. So just be aware of that. And so that transfer switch protects you from that, as well as it protects your neighbors, the first responders, and the utility guys out there. So backfeed's a real thing. All right, next slide, Ken. Other resources. So the wildfire safety, they do have a cool thing. It's called 7 Sundays. And my partner, David Hawks, did a great job of just talking about, we produced a video on making defensible space and home hardening and all of that. It's pretty good. The 211, that's for community support for people with disabilities. We stand that up during disasters here locally, the 211. Safety Action Center, just again, it's prevention, about having a plan when things go bad, disaster plan, having your bag, having your meds, having extra sets of all the stuff that you need. But this is the important one here. I actually did this for my neighbor the other day, the Report It app. You get it off of App Store or Play Store. It basically is a PG&E application available to the public. It basically, on your phone, if you see something that's safe, dangerous, you're frustrated, concerned, it geolocates you, knows your address and where you're at. It asks you to take pictures, and it asks you to write a narrative about what your issue is. And we have a regulatory responsibility to respond to you within 48 hours, and it goes in the queue, and you will have follow-up. So Report It. My neighbor had this old rickety pole in his yard. Mike, what are we gonna do about this thing? I'm afraid, it's got woodpecker holes in it, and it's got a rusty old transformer, like everything going on. I can't believe it still exists. So, hey, David, grab your phone. And we sat there and filled it out together. And I said, use your words, dude. Like, it's gonna fall on my patio during a barbecue and cause risk to my family. Use your words. So be descriptive, write, and tell them what your concerns are, and you will get a response. David got a response. They told him that pole is already in the work plan and it will be replaced by this date, and let us know if you have any issues or concerns. So there's that. Wildfire safety contacts. If you have wildfire concerns with wildfire safety PG&E, someone will have to check this before we go to the phone number here. I'm not quite sure that's the same phone number as wood management, but they might be, but we'll clear that up again when I my follow-up information. All right, Ken. Is that it? We're done?
That's it.
All right, so yes, sir. How are you doing, David?
Good
to see you. Good to see you.
Sorry.
Just on the side, go up. Go up
Right.
I have a request, and you can help all of us do better with our fire wise communities. If we could get, maybe monthly a report, sent to the Fire Safety Council on what projects, where they are, and how much they cost.
Ooh.
That would really help.
Yeah, I can't deliver on the costs, but the progress can all be followed on the website. I mean, it's updated. Yeah, I don't have the capacity to deliver and make that commitment to you, but I wish I could. That's a big ask.
Big ass.
Yeah. Just shoot you straight.
Can you give us hours? Hours are worse than dollars. Okay.
Well, I can tell you, between all of our lines of business, there's so much work going on. I mean, even the respective lines of business, it'd be a pretty big fishing trip to try to organize that and bring something meaningful to you. It's a lot.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, sorry.
Like I said, our undergrounding website and they are designed for what you're asking. They're not going to put man hours and dollar signs on there though. But they're going to show you where the work is and what the progress is.
All right. That's what we need for fire lights, it's dollars and hours.
Yeah. So saw sheet. So are you looking for in-kind value or what's the?
Sure, if you gave me in-kind value, then I can report that to fire.
Okay, we can talk about that offline. Let's be specific about what your need is.
Okay, thanks.
And David, maybe what we will do is commit to, there's a lot in the works that, and Mike alluded to it, we'll talk about some more about project coordination and how we can share more of that. And so maybe what you're asking for, we can maybe do for everyone, so that we're not asking Mike to do a bunch of one-off. But the information you're looking for is very valuable, and I think everybody may want to access the same.
Whole count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll engage.
Yeah, Sashi is the one that can fish those waters and come up with a dashboard type thing, right?
Yeah.
She'll know how to combine those different silos of data and bring it into something that makes sense. That'd be a tall order for me, but I don't want to let you down. So yes, Cameron.
Is it on the website where this actual schedule for the undergrounding? Because we've had a lot of surveys done on our property, but I would love to know when the actual work is scheduled to happen, even approximately. Is that information somewhere?
I think the projects on there show a broad time frame. And so remember, so a project starts with surveying and then, ends with energization, right? So there's a lot in there. I don't know how to answer that right now, Taylor, but I can look into it and let you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing construction anyway, so it'd be nice to know when they're going to be doing construction on our property.
Understand.
And I've been asking and nobody who comes can tell me, so.
Yeah, they hand out, the projects are approved, they hand them off to contractors and the contractors go.
You'll get an ROE thing, a big ROE thing from PG&E, or you've got to sign your life away.
Yeah, the common property.
Yeah.
But we don't know, there's no way of finding out when that's gonna be.
Let me look into that. Let me see if I can get yourself answer that.
Thank you.
So lastly,
What was that? Oh,
lastly, so during a fire like yesterday, you pointed out, so what happens during a wildfire with PG&E? So I respond locally to the incident command post. The first thing that I do is I evaluate what commodities from the company are either impacted or threatened. I notify those respective lines of business and their local leadership, whether it's the superintendent or the supervisor of electric operations, transmission, gas, whoever that is, vegetation, whatever it is. Basically, they respond to the fire. Whoever's got the most impact will typically be our incident commander. We'll start to organize our team and our effort over here. And then I coordinate with the fire. The fire IC may see, I need the power lines de-energized in this area for firefighter safety. Got it. I grab my troubleman, we go to work, we start opening switches, and we took out power like we did yesterday. That was done as requested by the fire department for firefighter public safety. So the other piece to that is that the firefighters are working and fire is burning through. Sometimes those wires and poles do fall, blocking ingress and egress. Then I would respond to troubleman. I turn around to my troubleman and say, go to this address, for the firefighters, get the wires off the truck, and let me know when you're done. The third piece to that, so our respective, whatever those hazards are and whatever our work's going to be in coordination with the fire, we also have what's now, I think it's the largest industrial fire department in the United States. So we have a 60 little Type 6 blue PG&E fire trucks that have fire retardant on them. And so basically I coordinate with the incident commander, hey, where is it safe for us to work? So we want firefighters to fight fire, right? So the utility company, we will either go ahead of the firefighters and we'll spray retardant on the poles. It was blue, and so we're trying a new thing, the blue retardant, is so we know which work is ours. And but we'll spray retardant, they'll scrape around the bottom and they'll spray retardant, they document it, they move on. They do this well out ahead of the firefighters. We don't want to be in their way, and we don't want to put our employees at risk. The other thing we do is we follow behind them. We're in the black now, they are up where the fire is impacting, and we basically mop up and put the poles out that are burning, clear the roadway, and open them up. So that's our safety and infrastructure protection teams, and they do that work. We have 2 engines right out of Placerville here, and that's the work that those guys do, is asset protection. Other things they may do if we have a critical facility, they may go and make sure there's defensible space and pre-treat like a substation or a valve line or a building, or even, PG&E owns campgrounds and other historic buildings and things like that. So they may do that so the firefighters can focus on putting the fire out, not dealing with our critical infrastructure. So
I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
So based on what you just said, I believe you're missing a chance to explain that part. It has nothing to do with you starting the fire. It has everything to do with coming in and protecting the public.
Yep.
And I believe you should consider talking to whoever you need to talk to, get some public announcement out there about this process, because it's significant. You have a fire department within your own makeup, which I believe you're explaining.
Absolutely.
So,
it's an
I'm just very pleased.
Well, we don't call it a fire department because union people get really upset about that, but it is a safety program.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yes, we're going. Yes.
Thanks, Mike, for being here today and for all the information. I have a Firewise community. I'm Gina Posey, and I'd like to know if I can get a copy of these slides. I'd like to send them out to the community. And second, I'd like to know your strategy about the poles themselves. You came out and you did a great job at the canopy, but you left these poles just enmeshed with dried weeds and so forth. And when I asked whether they could create some defensible space around their poles, they said they could not. So I just wonder, wouldn't it be effective as when you're doing the trees, also think about defensible space around your poles? And also, are they fire resistant, I assume, poles?
No.
No.
Well, there would. But we do wrap, the ones that are wrapped are resistant but not fireproof.
So if I don't have a wrap pole, can I ask for one?
So a couple of things. Let's back up. So there there are laws and regulations that require us to do certain things in those right of ways, right? Whether it's clearing around the conductor or clearing around the base of a pole. So public resource code does not require us to clear the base of a power pole unless there is what is called a non-exempt piece of hardware on it, which is a piece of hardware that's been demonstrated to cause an ignition. So we've been getting rid of exempt hardware. But I will tell you this, your strategy and idea is absolutely spot on. And we are identifying poles, even with exempt hardware on them in high fire threat areas, and we are clearing them preactively through the spring and into the summer. So even though the law doesn't require, we are doing that work. Places we are doing that work revolve around, focus around dead end roads and dead end communities is where you may see our little blue SIFTY guys when they're not going to fires out clearing around poles. So so that's kind of our strategy on it. So I hope that helps answer that.
And the slides, will you be able to send?
Yeah, we'll share the slides with everybody and a few more websites and links. So I think
perfect.
that's about right.
No, but I was
Funny web.
for one or two more, but I wanted to just to make clear for Gina is that we'll absolutely, if Mike's cool with it, is we will link the PowerPoint to the Fire Safe Council website on today's meeting agenda site. We will also break out this presentation from the video, so it'll be a separate link, so you can actually watch the video and hear the questions.
And I'll give you the Mike Web suite of must-have places to sign up, notifications, places to go for information, the must-haves. Yep.
So let's see. We got a couple more questions, then we'll have to move on.
Real quickly.
Just wanted to say this is regarding the vegetation management. Number one, thank you for the grant for vegetation management in the South County. It is enabled us to extend that project significantly. And the other though was whether you're looking at utilization of biomass. We have a lot of down trees, from past work throughout our area that and kind of looking at the biomass utilization opportunities and support maybe from PG&E.
Great question. So my friend Kevin Johnson, who met with some of the people here last year, was able to establish a pilot program for biomass and biochar with Nevada County OES and Fire Safe Council. So they have a place, a depository, a site where the community brings all their green waste, and we were able to hire a contractor and fund and provide the biomass. So we are exercising that as a pilot right now. So we'll see if Kevin is able to write and hold up that business case for that. So that's perfect. So yeah, there's still a ton of wood on the ground. There's still a gap there, but I think we recognize that. And then the other thing I did not mention is our crews shall not be leaving wood within your defensible space on your property. So if you did your work in May and June and then a tree crew showed up and put a tree on the ground, you absolutely need to request from them a wood management agreement. Remember, wood bigger than 4 to 6 inches, we grind up and chip the feathers, but we leave the bones. The bones by law are considered private property. We cannot take that without your permission. So that's the purpose of the wood management agreements, for you to sign off and say, hey, take the wood. So they will do that. Remember, the minute you sign the agreement, it has to get scheduled. It may be a couple of weeks before they physically come and get that off your property, but they will come. And I have a lot of positive feedback on that stuff in the defensible space. So, all right, perfect. You've been very patient.
Yeah. Ken Greenwood, an interested citizen, Slide Park area. Are you not? I noticed on the lower Slide Park, you're not putting in boxes in the middle of the road. Was that something you learned from above? Because it's driving over this every day is a pain.
Yeah. So the either pad mounted equipment or the road mounted equipment, what we are finding is that in snow country, first, we really need to be finding better locations for pad mounted transformers. Slide Park was one of our first really big undergrounding projects outside of the Grizzly Flats recovery. And so we've learned we're improving that, but sometimes they're either limited by right-of-way property ownership or just physical, where they have to put a J-box in somewhere. And so but they're trying to get out of that business more and more, especially in snow country. So yeah, they understand. Yeah.
That old poles. ever gonna come down?
Report it. If you see something that's like my neighbor's full of woodpecker holes and a cross arm that's a little thing with a rut, like if that looks hazardous,
I
report it.
mean, the ones that got chopped off that are now holding communication.
So communications are always invited to join us in the trench, and at this point, they have not made that financial and operational commitment to doing it. And it's a problem in snow country too, because those are pulled down. So
Question from Tanya, and then we will move on.
Tanya.
Hi, Mike. Really quick question, just to follow up on the wood management. This is a question we get a lot at the county and at all the meetings is the removal of the debris. And I know that there is that program. If they didn't sign that agreement, can they go back and find it somewhere or get their debris removed if they?
Where was the gut? Here he is right here. We were talking about that. So, and on our website, you go to power line clearance, there is a spot and it's ways down. There's a lot of information there. It's almost too much, but it says after the work is done and you have concerns, there is a phone number and an email address there. I'm horrible at memorizing those, but the information is there. And you did work on my property. It's still in my D space. You need to come back. That is one place to make a communication. Then that reported at works too.
Okay, great. And then just can I follow up with you just to get that info where that is? It'd just be helpful for us.
Absolutely. That will be in my suite of information that I will follow up with Ken. So I will give you guys the kind of the guide card for all of that.
And that D space is at the 100-foot?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Perfect.
All right, well, I just might want to say this was huge. Thank you. And, Mike's played a huge part in what. Thank you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and